Hello, everyone. Welcome back to How to Play SFJ. This is episode 3. We're going to talk about the Soviet Air Armada and the ultimate Soviet late game army composition. All right. So, first thing on the menu here, just going to dive right into it. It's the V3 launcher, also known as the V3 rocket.
Ready.
Now,
Ready for launch. Ready for launch.
view this. We got V3 rockets all over the map here. Gotta stop TTing. We'll talk about that later. These are your ultimate anti-camp unit. Okay, if the enemy is trying to camp, okay, and there are V3 rockets nearby, they will not be able to camp. So let's talk about why. First of all, they have a ridiculous amount of range, okay? Their fire rate is extremely fast, and they have good movement as well. And of course, they do a very, 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 very large amount of damage. So your opponent's not going to be able to sit there if V3s are giving them the business from a distance. Now, the important thing to note about these, what makes them so powerful, is they auto-acquire targets. That means that if there is a target anywhere within their range, they will just start launching rockets at it. Okay, so how you micro this is, right, it auto-acquires target. You move back, you press S. When you press S, it'll stop, so it'll auto-acquire targets again. You move back, you press S, auto-acquire, rinse, and repeat. So in some cases, maybe his army's here, it's moving, you might want to predict where it's going to go. This unit is extremely fun to use. It wrecks everything. It's really powerful. It's really fun to use. It's going to be much better on campy maps or in situations where there's stalemate. Maybe jungle's plugged up with a bunch of units, and you can break that stalemate by making V3 rockets. All right, but it's not so good in like where mobility is important, like Coldest Peak. There's a lot of expansions and so on. So that's the V3 rocket. Let's talk about an option you have to make some air units as the Soviet player, because we cannot let the Allies have all the fun. Now, can we, boys? All right? So we already talked about some options that you have available to you, right? After you make a radar, right? We spoke about how you can make another war factory for more Teslas. We spoke about how you can make a B-Lab to try to go for the heavy apocalypse tank. We talked about the E3 rockets, but you also have the option to make the guard shack, which has the Iron Curtain logo here. This structure does not act like an Iron Curtain, right? It does not turn your tanks invulnerable. But what it does do is, as you can see, it repairs your tanks like a mech shop from Yuri's Revenge. So that's an option you have available for you. It also gives you a power drop, which I suppose will drop later on in the video. And above all else, it also gives you the option to make air units. Okay, so view Siege Choppers as just a more useful unit than the Yuri's Revenge Siege Chopper. It still does its role where it can like go in, fly in, flank, deploy, kill the MCV, fly back. The only difference is it's just much better versus tanks. So you can use it in the fight as well. But their main air unit is going to be this bad boy here. This is the lightning rod. Well, we have lightning rods all over the map apparently. So view this as the Soviet Rocketeer. All right, it's much better than the Rocketeer. It's better because it comes much later in the game, right? You have to build it from the war factory. The Allied can build the Rocketeer at the same time from the barracks. So it's better than the Rocketeer. It moves around really quickly, right? It harasses. It's pretty good versus buildings, right? So one strategy that is extremely common that I lost to actually right before making this video is, it got into a traditional game, right? We both had like 5 war factories, right? And we were at that crossroad, just like, all right, do I make the battle lab or do I go for the guard shack? My opponent was pressuring me. He went for the guard shack. I didn't know because I was busy being pressured. He swapped into like 10, 11, 12, 13 lightning rods or something like that. And I didn't see him come, and they flew in and just started sniping my wars. I was doomed. So very common strategy. You can end a lot of opponents switching into these. And I suppose the last thing to talk about in this video is the ultimate late game army composition, because it does consist of V3 rockets, believe it or not. They are that powerful. They are part of your ultimate army. So this is super late game business here. Alright, Boris is part of that. You can only make one Boris. Now this bad boy, we're going to hotkey him Team 1. He is your hero. This is your champion. Alright, this is your one and only big boy. You can only make one of them. He is good versus every kind of tank. He's good versus infantry, right? He's good versus tanks. He shoots air units. We're going to demonstrate that, right? There's no armor type he's not good versus, okay? Shoots shoots air units, owns infantry. Alright, as you can see, airstrike confirmed, owns buildings as well. This is your champion. You want him in your late game army, okay? Also, we have the Kirov. This is part of your late game army composition. This is for pushing forward, these Kirovs. This is for pushing forward. If your opponent is in a location that you don't like, or you want to be, send your Kirov at him. He'll move away. He'll have no choice but to move away. As you can see, it moves very fast. This is why he'll have to move away. Okay, it does a lot of splash damage. A lot of splash. It's pretty good versus most things, okay? Now, by itself, it's not the greatest thing versus buildings, but if you get a couple of these stacked up, they can do a lot of damage versus buildings. So this is just 2 Kirovs. You can see it will not one-shot the War Factory. I'm even repairing it, but, you know, couple drops, the War Factory goes down. You get 3, 4, 5 of those, the War Factory is going to go down fast. Okay, so Boris, Kirov, Apox, and V3s. So that's why I have this over here. This is what your late game army composition is going to look like. This is it. This is the ultimate Soviet army, pretty much, right here. At least Soviet versus Soviet, right? The Apox are up front, right? The Apox are up front. They're dealing damage. They're taking damage. The Kirovs are taking shots from the Apox as fodder. They're coming in. They're dealing some damage. They're flying out. The Boris is being microed in the background, right? He's doing splash damage, good damage, and of course the V3s are in the back, taking acting as fodder against the Apox, and of course doing nice damage, as you can see. Yeah, so this is your ultimate Soviet army right here.